Hey guys, how you going?
Morning, Alexei.
How are things, Michael?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. It's been a bit of a crazy week, but yeah,
Okay.
all good. Got a few people on the call, which is great. So I won't hold you too long. I think this is going to go for about half an hour or so, and the main idea behind this is just to provide a bit of a structure with all the future marketing because I get a lot of calls and requests, from clients and just people calling for help where they're evolving their businesses and ultimately not seeing the full picture. I think it's really important, whenever you're doing any marketing, just to understand the overall impact of the whole thing, and especially given the current situation, I think it's really, really important to understand, what the impact is across all of the areas of the business, if that makes sense. Well, let me run with this presentation. If you guys got any questions, we'll hold it until the end. I will record this presentation as well, so in case you guys miss something, there's going to be a recording of it as well. I am going to go and just mute everybody right now. I trust you guys have used Zoom in the past, so if you have any questions in the end, I'll unmute you then. But if there's anything burning, just use chat or put up your hand. So I'm muting you now. All right, so let me just kick off my presentation. All right, so I'm going to kick off the present mode. Okay, so this is what we call the winning small business framework. This is the format that we follow for our marketing and also to help businesses stay on track in relation to any of their campaigns and any new avenues launched in the business, which I think right now is probably more relevant than ever before. I guess short agenda is, we want to cover the four key areas of any business, and regardless of the business structure, these four areas are going to be there. I want to discuss the marketing format that works, what the future looks like for a lot of businesses, and ultimately, what the trends are. And I want to talk about future-proof marketing as well. So the four areas of any business, the fundamentals, as I like to call them. So regardless of the business, you're always going to have four areas in the business, which are marketing, sales, the business itself, and accounting. So you can't really have any sales without the marketing. You're not going to have any business without the sales. A lot of us have started a business as a venture that and sort of fell into it. And I think what's happening right now is a lot of people are wanting to start new avenues, but they don't understand exactly where the start is. Like a lot of us just fell into what we did, or we worked for somebody and then we started doing, the actual business. Or, some of us might have acquired a business as well. So the start of the entire business and how it flows into sales and marketing is very different for everybody. And I think unless you understand the bigger picture, it's a little bit difficult. And also, the accounting is really important. If you don't invoice people on time, if you don't follow through with the outstanding debts, you're not going to have a business. So there's going to be a flow between these four components. And let's go into them in a little bit more detail. The marketing, I guess, any business, if you are looking to market your business, you're going to have at least three main verticals within your marketing. The first one being inbound marketing, which is things like your Google or Facebook ads or SEO or anything that brings traffic directly to you. So you've got a presence set up and ultimately people are coming straight to you. Outbound marketing, which is things like your emails, flyers if you're doing any physical marketing, and anything that you basically send out to your particular prospects. Now, I find that a lot of businesses get stuck in one rather than another, and then they basically move into something else once it stops working. Well, if you want to sort of prevent that from happening, you really need to look into those avenues. And the third one being networking. Now, this is things like BNI, Chamber of Commerce, I guess your partners and referring partners, associates, and so on and so forth. So whatever it is, you definitely need to be addressing the three areas of your marketing in order to be successful, because when times change, it's really, really difficult to adapt. And I think, right now the priority should be really going towards email marketing if you haven't already started doing that, because ultimately you're sitting on a list of customers that you worked with in the past that have paid you money, and that'd be a lot easier to turn into repeat clients as opposed to trying to find new clients, if that makes sense. So that's the marketing overview for you. And look, I advise 3 strategies, in each one of these at least, but there's certainly a lot more that you can do for your business as well. From the sales perspective, I guess it's all really about the point of difference. And look, a lot of us sell quite naturally. And, I've spoken to dozens of salespeople, and, you talk to them about, how do you guys sell? What's the formula? What do you follow? And a lot of people just do it naturally. They understand the product, they understand customer pain points, and they sell it. But I think if you, launching new stuff, or if you are potentially looking to embark on some marketing avenues that you haven't done before, it's very important to look at your point of difference. So what sets you apart from your competitors? Is it things like, how experienced you are in a certain area, how many years you've been in business, the quality of your work, the customers that you work with, potentially, the warranties and the guarantees that you're offering. So anything to set you apart. And this is particularly important when you're doing Google ads, where you've got 4 different advertisers advertising side by side. And ultimately, a lot of the time you see that they have very, very similar messages. Well, that isn't really going to work. I think the point of difference is really what you can advertise and then turn into a sales process. In fact, with our campaigns, what's been working really well is where we interview the customer on their sales process, we get those points of difference, and then we put that in the ad. So when the inquiries come through, the conversation connects a lot better. The Aqua principle, I spoke about this multiple times, and you guys would have seen this. If you haven't come across this, you can Google this up. It'll come up on our website. It's basically all about affordability, convenience, utility, and availability. Those are the main 4 points that a lot of customers would buy on. I find that, a lot of businesses would get the question of, how much straight away. And ultimately, if you are going to answer that question, you are not very likely to win the business unless you're the cheapest. Convenience-wise, what's convenient about your business? Do you deliver your products? Do you potentially see people, outside the hours or so? There's got to be some convenience points. For dental practices in the city, for example, it was all about the parking. So there's always a convenience point that really concerns the customer. Utility, perhaps one of the most important points, but a lot of customers don't really address. It's all about, why you? What makes you the expert in your particular field? And I guess all the industry associations, all the things that you're affiliated with really make a big difference. We find for health professionals, being associated with certain health funds was a really big decision maker, and ultimately featuring, case studies across some examples on the website really made a big difference as well. And I guess last one is all about availability. How soon can you provide your service or see a customer or talk to them? And I guess this is one thing that's really becoming more and more prominent, especially if your conversations with the client right now start with a consultation. And I think that's 99% of the businesses. If you're available pretty much right now to jump on Zoom or phone call to talk to somebody about their needs, that's becoming more and more prominent. So I've put this in the way of Aqua as the sequence that actually flows. So affordability, people ask about the price straight away and everything else that's flowing. But I think at the moment it's probably availability that's becoming the first as well. So I'm sure you can play around with the concept. But look, if you need more info, Google it up. It'll come up on our website, and I'll be more than happy to discuss that with you as well. Pain points or clients' needs as such is another point as well. A lot of businesses sell based specifically around that. So it's more about, understand as to why the client's contacting you. Why do they need your help? And ultimately, what is it that they're looking for? And ultimately, a lot of the time, people aren't really after a product. They're after delivery of a service or taking care of certain things. So if you're able to, deliver a solution to their needs and really take care of it, give them a peace of mind, that's really what it's all about. I think it's really, really important to understand that. Offers and incentives, that adds a bit of spice or icing on the top of sales. If you have any triggers that get people to come to you and basically see you first, that's a really strong one. You would have seen Harvey Norman doing 24 months interest-free type of stuff, and that really wins them a fair bit of work. As you know, Harvey Norman by far not the cheapest in their field, but they do get a lot of business that way. So payment plans, discount, added value, all that sort of stuff works really well. Cashbacks, rebates, whatever. Like you really have to look into your business and find out exactly what people are after. A lot of people are comparing products and price shopping and stuff, which is why if you don't have an offer or an incentive, you are potentially missing out. The actual business itself, and look, I guess everyone we got on the call is quite different in relation to business operations. And I'm not here to talk about your business particularly, but I'm here to talk about some of the fundamentals that cover everybody. So we've got customer service, which is really putting clients first approach and supporting them along the way as well. Communication, make sure everything's clear. There are confirmations or reminders along the way. There are follow-ups and systems used. I find a lot of the time with the communication, just people make assumptions and ultimately, something's dropped along the way. So heaps of inquiries are lost purely because there's no follow-up or confirmation afterwards as well. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been observing a lot of dental practices, not getting people to show up because they assumed that those businesses were shut. So we've actually reached out and put messages on the website to let the customers know that certain processes are basically taking place and being implemented in order to help them with the the overall process of delivering a service. So make sure things are super clear and people aren't making assumptions, especially when you're working with a large number of people. And make sure there's a follow-up or systems used as well. The easiest thing you can do is use a calendar, like a Google Calendar, to make sure there are reminders for appointments. Systems like Calendly and stuff allow you to automate a few things as well and get people to book for you as well. And in relation to follow-ups, guys, well, look, every business is different, but the sales process is usually a 2 or 3 step process where you first try to book an appointment, then you need to basically send a proposal, and then you need to follow it up. The follow-up could be actually for the appointment itself as well. So unless you don't have that in place, then you're potentially missing out. And we're guilty of it as well. And this particular framework works for just about for any business because these things are really quite common sense, but are often forgotten. The 80-20 principle. I think this is really all about where the money is in your business. And I find that having a service split in terms of cash flow or trophy focus, as we like to call it, is really, really important. Because a lot of the time, businesses put all the eggs in one basket, and then something changes, like the current situation, for example, and suddenly there's no new avenues. So I think it's really important to diversify your services and look into what provides you cash flow and what also provides you those ideal clients. And if you're marketing, you need to be conscious as to what you're dedicating your marketing budget towards. So if you haven't reviewed this, now is the time to look. I think the easiest way to start looking at this would be your accounting. If you have a look in your accounts and have a look at exactly what's bringing most of your income, and ultimately focus on that. This will help you to analyze pricing. This will help you to analyze types of customers, who's buying from you as well, male, female. Potentially, you can drill down a little bit further and find out, more about, incomes and so on and so forth. So very important to understand the 80-20, and it comes up just about in any aspect of your business. But I really like to look at it from a service perspective and translate that into the marketing. I guess, diversification of income is really what you're looking for. So don't put all the eggs in one basket and make sure you've got multiple streams coming through. This way, it's much easier to adapt. Accounting, the last part of the 4 key areas of the business. I guess it's all about the timing. I know a lot of businesses who, they get too busy and then they, send out the invoices all in one day, and then things fall through the cracks or people don't receive them. I think timing has to be super important. And, you have to make sure that the invoices or the actual payments themselves are done on time. So if there's anything that you can put in place, like credit cards or payment systems, that will really speed up the process. I think it's very important to include the payment options. And I've recently done a video on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but it's about adding things like credit cards or recurring payments or installments and plans to your invoices as well. We use Stripe for our credit cards, and we use Go Cardless to allow people to do payment plans, which is direct debit platform. I guess it's all about allowing people to have flexibility around their payments, because some of us are selling high ticket items, and at the moment, particularly the cash flow, is really poor for a lot of people. So you can still sell your services, but the money side of things, people are really trying to stretch it out as much as they can. Using systems, so you basically want to automate your repeat processes, your payments, your repeat invoices, I guess anything to do with reminding of the outstanding invoices and follow-ups and so on and so forth. So I think in order to grow your business, that's really, really super important. And yeah, if you can eliminate any time wasting, that would be good. Because I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, accounts don't really take much. But if you're going to look into your week or your month, you're going to spend quite a number of hours on, creating invoices, following them up, sending them out, correcting the information, email addresses if they're wrong, and so on and so forth. So these are really the four areas of any business that you guys really need to be conscious of when you're doing marketing. And I guess what I recommend when it comes to planning is to actually work backwards. So let's say you've got a new business that you're starting or a new service avenue. First of all, you've got to understand, well, what's the service all about and how much is it going to be? And then ultimately, what pain points you're going to cover to sell it. And then you're going to start to market it, not the other way around. Because I see a lot of people start with saying, okay, well, here's a service and we're going to market it. And then they don't understand exactly what problems the whole thing solves and exactly how much it's going to cost. So when you're planning, I recommend going backwards, going accounting, then basically the business itself, sales and marketing. And when you're executing, go from top to bottom. I hope that makes sense. Let's talk about the marketing format that works. And I guess this is what we have been using specifically for our landing pages, for our Google ads, and so on and so forth, emails. And ultimately it comes down to a number of questions that we basically use to check our format. So the questions are why, who, what, how, and sometimes when. It doesn't apply all the time, but when is another question as well. I'll give you an example for each one of these. So for example, if we're talking about email marketing, why? You really need to understand the why behind things, because this is where you really set priorities for your tasks. Otherwise, email marketing is one thing that really gets forgotten. If you understand that email marketing is one of the fastest ways to communicate with your list and create new opportunities, you will certainly move it up your task list in terms of importance. Who are you contacting? Are you contacting past clients, the leads that didn't go ahead? And I'm sure you've got a lot of those as well. Every single business I know has got heaps of inquiries that are sitting in the inbox and they've never done anything about them. Perhaps newsletter subscribers, maybe there's other sort of lists as well, but ultimately it's very important to understand who you're communicating with, because the tone you're going to use in your emails, the content that you're going to put in there is going to be different. The next one is what? What are you currently doing? That could be one of the subjects as to what you are contacting them about. Because a lot of the time when businesses don't hear from you, they're not sure if you're still in business. I mean, you don't actively communicate with them. They dealt with you once and that's it. I guess new services, if you're launching anything, you always need to be notifying your customer base. If you're doing any offers, if you're doing case studies or FAQs, FAQs has been a big one. I know a lot of businesses have been bombarded with the same sort of questions, and we have been bombarded with questions as well. It's actually been really exhausting. We have a very personalized service that we offer for all of our clients, but a lot of the questions have been very much the same. So we are putting that in place ourselves just to address some of the frequently asked questions in terms of, what can business be doing right now to, I guess, make some quick wins? Ultimately, where they can save with their marketing right now, where they can cut back or expand, and so on and so forth. The next question is how. I guess, a lot of people get hung up on the technology side of things. They look into this whole email marketing and go, oh, that's too complicated. Well, look, guys, there's YouTube, there's plenty of other portals, there's Google. You can find the how side of things really easily once you know what you're doing. So what I recommend to people is potentially export your paid clients from your Xero or any accounting software that you're using. It usually comes in the format of a spreadsheet of some sort. And then from there, you can import it into a tool like MailChimp, for example, which is free for up to, I think, 2,000 or 2,500 contacts. And then from there, you can easily start executing your funnel. There are other systems like HubSpot or Infusionsoft that are obviously a little bit more robust. But, if you're looking for the absolute basic, I'd start with MailChimp. And look, it doesn't have to be complicated. If you get stuck in the how, we're there to help, reach out. But I'm sure you guys can find plenty of content around this as well. And I guess the last question is when. It's quite an optional one because it doesn't apply to all sorts of marketing. But I guess with email in particular, you can send out emails straight away, or you can schedule things as well. The businesses that are doing the best at email marketing, they've got the email marketing schedule. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are getting a lot of regular emails every month or every week. And, when it comes to newsletters, you can pre-write that stuff in advance, especially if you've got a marketing plan. And this is probably one thing that I didn't put in this presentation, but having a marketing calendar is super important. So communicating with your clients based around the events really works quite well. Now let's talk about the future. So what the future looks like, and I like to call this forced evolution, because a lot of us, we're probably dabbling on a few different business concepts, and now we're sort of made to change. So let's talk about online, and I guess online is a must now. It's no longer something you can ignore. If you look at professional services or any sales conversations, they all start with online consultation. And I guess another thing that you can explore is potentially virtual showrooms. We've spoken to a couple of our clients, but ultimately, if you're selling a product, if it's a visual one, you got to look into how you can, look at that experience to be delivered online. Because at the end of the day, sales conversation is all about you and the customer. And if you're able to get in front of them and show them the product, or explain the actual benefits of the actual product, or talk about the pain points, then that's a start to any sales process. I guess a lot of professional services like accountants or lawyers, they are going online. And frankly, I don't see the point of going back once this is all in place. I think a lot of the businesses will remain doing things in the same way possible, because it's leveraged. They can do it from anywhere. And ultimately, this will cut out a lot of traveling and a lot of other expenses as well. So you really got to look into this as to how this applies to your business. And I'm sure the sales conversations for a lot of you guys, they start online. So unless you started implementing this already, you definitely need to look into platforms like Zoom, Skype, Hangouts, or whatever that is. E-commerce. Now that's a big area altogether, and a lot of businesses obviously set up in e-commerce way from get-go. If they're selling, if they got a shop front, but a lot of other businesses aren't really having anything like that. And I guess e-commerce is quite a simple add-on. We've been getting quite a few requests from our clients to add a online store to their website, to sell things like gift vouchers, digital products, potentially some physical products, because as far as I'm concerned, Australia Post is still delivering things quite well. And ultimately, it's just really a matter of having that set up properly. And I guess e-commerce is really good for any business that has got things like upsells or gift certificates or products. Gift certificates in particular is the one that can really help a lot with the cash flow right now, especially if a business has got a bit of a following. And if you think that, let's say, your business provides something where a person can give your services to someone else or a product, then that really applies, directly to you as well. Upsells, a lot of, hair salons and so on and so forth usually sell products as an upsell. I mean, there's nothing really that's stopping those salons to sell them on their website, because a lot of the time, once people try something, they basically want to keep buying the same sort of product. Dentists can sell whitening products, teeth whitening products, or potentially anything that can help people maintain their health. So you got to be really a little bit creative and really look into your business to have a look at what sort of conversations you've had with your clients. But definitely have a look at upsells, gift certificates, and potentially any products that you can offer. Online payments. If you are still doing direct deposit or cash or whatever, you really got to look into online payments, guys. I know a couple of businesses are still a little bit old school, but you got to take at least a deposit online. Offer payment plans and credit cards. Doesn't take very long to set up with a system like Stripe, for example. I think the fees are quite reasonable as well. And ultimately, having that set up with your bank, merchant account, and all that is a little bit complicated. Systems like Stripe, you can get that going in less than 24 hours, and money is then within your bank account. I think it takes 24 to 48 hours, depending on your setup. Email marketing. So, for a lot of businesses, email marketing has been really pushed back quite a lot. But I know the most successful businesses do really well out of email marketing, because A, you're dealing with an audience that's mature and responsive, and B, people that are committed to the message, they will actually read it. So I think you really need to nurturing your database and potentially putting processes in place to start communicating with your list and nurturing it, which is really all about reinforcing that current relationship that you've got. Let's have a look at a couple of screenshots, and I'm sure you guys know all about Zoom, which is exactly what we're using for this presentation. Now, this is the data I found from Drift. Zoom being launched in 2013, and they've had quite an interesting spike until 2007. Now, if you look at Wikipedia, you'll find that Zoom has gained 2.2 million users in the first month of 2020. which is more than they basically made in all of 2019, and it just keeps going up. The company is public; it's gone through the roof. What this basically means is that more and more businesses are going onto Zoom, and I think a lot of people will remain on platforms like Zoom as well. So it's definitely something you need to be considering if you haven't considered already. This is a screenshot of one of our clients. I'm not going to disclose who it is, but ultimately what I wanted to show you is that e-commerce is actually going up at the moment. And I'm finding that people are buying more and more things online for all the obvious reasons, but it's been there. It's been there before. If we are doing a comparison of last 30 days to previous 30 days, we're finding that this particular business was making $1.2 million on average in a month. And last month, they basically skyrocketed to 2.7, which is a 115% increase. So this is happening right now. This is like a screenshot I've done yesterday, 31st of March. And as you can see, breakdown wise, there's a lot of organic traffic that's driving the traffic. That's their number one driver. We're doing SEO for them. Google CPC, that's the Google ads. That's the control ads that come up. And I'm sure when you guys are searching for a product, you've paid attention to those little product images with a price. Now that works quite well for anyone who sells a product, whether it's made, whether it's tailored and so on and so forth. But ultimately, having an online store is the way to go. Direct is when people type in the actual name of the business or the actual URL, and newsletter is the actual emails. Now, newsletter doesn't really cost you anything once it's set up. It's all about getting people to sign up for it and then sending out regular emails. As far as I'm concerned, this particular exercise didn't cost this business much at all and is bringing in about $25,000 on average every single month. I think that could pay a few people for their salaries. If you look at the point of sale and I guess payment methods, you will find that this is a projection done by Merchant Savvy, which is a pretty big analytical company. If you look at the credit cards, they're obviously on an incline. People are using debit cards a lot. Cash is going right down. But what's interesting is mobile payments and e-wallets are going through the roof. Now, mobile payments and e-wallets is basically where you're using things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, and so on and so forth. So it's basically a contactless way of paying. And the way I'm seeing things happening in the future with the governments wanting to phase out cash, this is going to be even more prominent. So ultimately, it's the same credit card or debit card added to a phone where people are using it for various payments. So that's definitely something for you to consider. And if you don't have any facility to take payments, I potentially recommend looking at a few things like Square, for example. Email marketing. So leading roles of email marketing play in the consumer purchase. So giving me additional incentives to purchase, 42% of respondents. Making aware of the brand that I wasn't familiar with, 26%. Helping me select between products I'm considering, 17%. Reminding me of purchase I need to make. Email marketing works, guys. And ultimately, if you are doing email marketing and you're able to partner up with companies who you can potentially cross-promote, you'll be able to launch your brand across their database as well. There's another huge vertical there for you as well. So really, I guess there's quite a few interesting trends, and obviously, I'm trying to make this presentation fairly short, but I wanted to basically just go over a couple of trends that are happening quite like right now. This is a slide I got from Google just last week, and they basically giving us stats that YouTube is going through the roof. In Italy, there's been 20 times growth in YouTube watching over the course of 28 days. Now, just think about it, guys. Everyone's on YouTube. If you're not doing any marketing, if you're not putting out any content, you are missing out. Germany, 11%. France, 4 times. Great Britain, 6.5 times the usual. US is 10 times in terms of watch time in one day. So, guys, some really crazy figures, but what this really shows is that is where the market is. This is where the market is spending their time. This is another slide from what Google sent us. A lot of people are looking for products, and potentially there are a lot of queries in relation to things like in-stock, near me, delivery, pickup, and other things as well. So if you look for keywords like telemedicine or webinar, as you can see, the Google Trends is going through the roof. And if you want to have a look at information like this, go to trends.google.com and select any particular region, any date range, and give it a crack. You can compare a few things as well. Telehealth and webinar in Australia is booming as well. So the word telehealth, anything for health professionals where they can start their conversation online, is really, really key. I can see how a lot of psychologists can basically just go online. I can see how a lot of physios can start doing exercise physiology online. Personal trainers are already doing it. So the telehealth or the whole online delivery of services is booming, and you guys really need to look into where you can potentially start offering that. For a lot of you, where you are selling products, I think you need to look into virtual showrooms and potentially start to create a visual of the products as well. I know that Michael from Burgundy Bespoke, who does custom engagement rings, has got a bit of a program where he actually shows the customer the actual product. And we'll talk to Michael later, but I think his process is quite interesting. Let's talk about some future-proof marketing, and this is the last section of my presentation. I guess it's really important to have a look into things that don't really change. So first of all, things like reputation. Guys, if you got a business footprint, you really need to look into your testimonials, recommendations, and so on and so forth. So if you got your LinkedIn profile set up, great, make sure you get as many testimonials or recommendations, because that will really help. If you don't, now is really the time to do it. Your reviews for Google Business, Facebook product review, and so on and so forth, really important to have those in place. If you don't have a strategy, now is really the time. Organic results, like specifically for your services and publicity. If people can't find you in Google right now, it's going to be very difficult for you to get business. The inbound marketing, with all this research in place and potentially people not taking action, comes down to SEO more than anything else right now. Making sure the accuracy of information is there, making sure that the websites for your business have got key people featured there, because people want to work with people. Make sure there's no outdated information. Make sure that, all your employees are on LinkedIn, and potentially, you've got a proper profile set up. Make sure that the service is outlined correctly, so there isn't anything that you don't do any longer or started doing and it's not there as well. So very important to keep updating it. And pricing, if you're featuring any pricing or doing any offers or anything like that, it's got to be there. It's got to be consistent, because last thing you want to do is people saying, hey, I found this particular page, it says you charge X and you charge Y. So you really want to avoid those conversations. Your list, your client base, make sure it's nurtured, make sure it's communicated and updated. So you got to keep updating that potential database. Make sure you segment it into prospects and subscribers as well, and educate those people, because ultimately if someone was a prospect but didn't go ahead, they still inquired about your service in the first place. And look, I understand some of you have got single transaction type businesses, but it still doesn't mean that these people aren't going to be referring you or potentially recommending someone or maybe buying other things from you as well. So you've got to make sure you educate them on things like other products, services, and maybe joint ventures and other things if you want to feature other businesses. Network. Now that's a big one. A lot of businesses basically just push this aside altogether. But ultimately, the way we built our businesses, and what I recommend a lot of business owners, is to look into partners. So ultimately, look for people who have your customers before you, but are not in competition with you. So they already have a following, they already have a list, and ultimately, if you can work with them, I think you can get a lot of business. This can work both ways, because there are a lot of businesses who'd be happy to support you if you can drive traffic or business their way as well. Loyal clients. A lot of people don't realize this, but this is where you get your referrals from most of the time. A lot of the time this happens naturally. You're awesome at what you do, and people say, hey, I'm going to refer someone to you. But if you put a bit of a structure in place and you're able to incentivize your loyal clients, then you could potentially streamline this further. Testimonials. Make sure you get testimonials from your loyal clients or Google reviews. A lot of people just don't ask for this sort of stuff. And most importantly, repeat business. If you've got a loyal client who bought from you and was really happy, there's a good chance they're going to buy again. So you really got to look into the whole offer and the incentive and ultimately the message behind the whole thing. So guys, that's a brief summary of the actual framework that we follow. Hopefully it gives you a bit of an update as to where we are right now, provides you with a little bit of direction. But I just wanted to open up for questions. I'm sure you've got a few questions that you may want to ask. And the main reason behind this presentation was just to show you, I guess, the process that we follow and ultimately the flow within the 4 areas of the business as to how the marketing applies. Have we got any questions?